August 1st, 1914. After the assassination of Prince Franz Ferdinand of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the German Empire declares war on Russia. Because of established alliances, France is preparing for conflict. A few hours after the announcement of the general mobilization, German civilians living in France are asked to leave the country. Karl is one of them. A few days after Karl was deported, the war was hungry for more and took away Emil as well. A heavy-hearted Emil was called up to fight and left the farm for Saint-Mihiel. Like so many others, he had no idea what fate had in store for him.
My dear Marie, we are on our way to Paris. The atmosphere here is strangely cheerful. I hope that the harvest goes well. Rely on our neighbors for help. They've always been gracious and charitable people. I'll write again as soon as I get my assignment. Please kiss my little grandson for me.
At the train depot in Paris, trying to reach his regiment at Platform 21, Emil would meet the man he would soon fight alongside. The man who would come to be his truest friend.
Thank you, I'm Freddie. Welcome to What are you listening? Good luck, my friend.
August 21st, 1914. Emil's regiment was sent to fight against the 71st German Division led by Baron von Dorf. The general cheer of the first hours dissipated into the fear of first combat. Miss Marie Chillon, Private Emile Chillon from the 150th Infantry Regiment, was wounded by enemy fire on August 21st. He has been captured by the enemy. Hopefully, you shall receive news from him soon. Freddie, originally from America, enlisted voluntarily in the French forces at the start of the war. Behind his bravery hid a man already devastated by the war's effects. A man with one sole obsession: punish those who had destroyed his life. It was at the Battle of the Marne that Freddie finally picked up the trail of the regiment commanded by Baron von Dorf.
Jawohl! Vergesam! Weg da! Sprung unter dem geliebten Alster! Knutzt den an nicht im Haus!
thanks to support from British forces, the German plan failed. The front line moved back to the north, and with the arrival of winter, froze. Soldiers holed up amid a vast labyrinth of trenches and tunnels that would become the indelible image of the Great War. Karl's regiment retreated to the outskirts of Neuve-Chapelle, the same camp where Emile was being held prisoner.
Emile? Huh? Cow! Cow! Marie, est-ce que ça va?
Dearest Papa, we live in a climate of uncertainty. Germans use the people of Saint-Mihiel as human shields against the French bombings. I hope the Germans treat you well, and that your wound has healed. Your grandson sent you kisses. I sent you a picture of him. All my love. Please write soon.
Adieu, Karl. Merci.
Ouais, au pied.
The British troops continued their attack on Neuve-Chapelle. Their next objective, take back Port Arthur.
You American! Over there! Over there! Yeah, go! Sir. Yes, sir. Come on, boys, let's go.
Merci, mon ami.
Du regner.
Karl Wiesfender.
Yeah, come this way.
Amidst the never-ending attacks and counterattacks, Freddy and Emile hunted the elusive Baron and his regiment in Ypres. On April 22nd, 1915, chlorine gas was used for the first time by the Germans. Her name was Anna, a Belgian student living in Paris. She was hard on the trail of her missing father. For once, fate smiled on them. They were all going in the same direction. But while approaching Vimy, a German squadron spotted them.
va aller, allez. Allez, Bill! Allez!
Skid are bad.
Baron von Dorf had escaped again, but Emil had still managed to find medicine for Freddy.
Thank you, my friend.
They were quickly back on the road again. Their journey would take them to Reims, where they would at last pick up the trail of the elusive Baron and his Zeppelin.
Oh! Ja! Zum Angriff! Vorwärts Marsch!
Anna was training to be a veterinarian when the war broke out. The Germans were only 20 miles from Paris when she received a letter from her father. He was in good health, but implored her not to return home to Belgium until the war's end. Patience, however, was not one of Anna's strong suits. September 7th, 1914. Taxis drove all night. Anna was proud to help the soldiers reach the front line. When Anna arrived at her destination, she discovered the horrible truth with her own eyes. Seven months went by. Driven by compassion, Anna devoted herself, body and soul, to healing the wounded and the sick. Every life saved was another small victory over the war. The conflict, however, raged on. The French officers were talking about Belgium. The German army was about to experiment with a new weapon near Ypres, Anna's hometown. Anna got en route to warn her father about the imminent danger. Reaching the outskirts of the city, Anna was greeted by the screams of sirens. The deadly gas was already here. The governess revealed to her that her father, an eminent scientist, had been kidnapped by Baron von Dorf, who was eager to use scientific advances in warfare. Anna set out in pursuit of the Baron and encountered Emil and Freddy. Destiny brought them together. They had survived the enemy's wrath, their gunfire, bombardments, gas attacks. with her father within reach, Anna wasn't going to let him slip away.
Ça va aller, allez. Émile? Non!
Victory had a bittersweet taste for Anna. Karl, seriously wounded, had been sent to a POW camp. Anna's father had disappeared with Baron von Dorf, and Emil was court-martialed for desertion. Cited for his bravery in Reims, Emil was fortunately pardoned and set free to go back to the front. February 21st, 1916. Winter had descended on the front. After joining back up with the army, Emil and Freddie were stationed near Verdun, suffering like many others from the harsh winter. That morning, the arrival of the mail raised spirits, but Marie's letter did not bring good news. In Saint-Mihiel, food was scarce, disease was rife, and the number of dead was growing. Out of this grim news, however, there was one ray of light. A photo of his grandson, Victor, standing on both feet and learning to walk.
My dearest daughter, I heard from Karl. His condition is stable. He is still in the prisoner camp south of Reims. I hope to finally get permission to visit him. Thank you for the photo. It means so much to me.
Precision cannon firing enabled Freddie and his regiment to reach the rear line unharmed.
Bravo, Freddie! Bill, thank you very much.
The military hierarchy heard of their feats in battle and decided to decorate the two friends for their bravery. Emil received good news from Anna. Karl was recovering nicely. He was even walking again. Meanwhile, the battle for Verdun only grew longer and bloodier. The death toll was staggering, 70,000 per month. Almost one Frenchman and one German every minute, and it went on for 10 months, day and night. May 8th, 1916, Emil's squad was sent on a mission to take back Fort Douaumont, a strategic point in the German defense.
Yes, sir. Come on. Bastardo, agora! Hey, thank you very much. Run out. Come!
Despite the fort's partial destruction, the Germans held their position. The mission was a failure.
My darling, war has taken away a very dear friend. He was like a brother to me, and his death affects me much more than I could imagine. In happier news, Carl is safe from the trenches, and his condition improves steadily. I'll go and see him on my next leave. And what about you? How are you? Are things in Saint Miel any better?
Carl discovered things were not, in fact, any better. According to Marie's last letter, his son had fallen gravely ill. Carl had come to a decision. This war would never end. He had to escape.
Als da kaum wer Trommeln anbackt. De volgende schoot veel. Auf!
Given a hero's welcome by the French forces. Emile wrote to Anna to let her know that her father was free and out of harm's way. Freddie and Emile's reunion, however, would be short-lived. May 14th, 1916. Freddie was sent to the Somme, while Emile's regiment was quartered near a small village at the top of a hill. The village was called Vauquois. This is where the conflict had moved underground. Holed up in their trenches, the two camps dug tunnels and galleries. The underground war had begun.
How are you?
Oh, danke.
Merci.
Dat overkloot dat net.
Merci, mon ami. Adieu.
No. Hey, stilstaan! Doe dat! Wat?
Jetzt doch. Merci, mon ami.
Allez, au côté. Oh bah non, c'est moi.
Hey, rangement, quel mal visitant. Hey, Prodi.
Caron figuier, vieux grognon de Valiant.
Ready? Here come. Yeah. Go.
French officers were proud of the heavy losses inflicted on the enemy. Emile, full of anger, refused to be decorated for what he considered to be a cowardly act. Emile and Freddy were, however, happy to have saved Anna's father from Baron von Dorf's clutches. His scientific research could no longer be used to make weapons of war. Good news being few and far between, they wanted to savor this moment. But Anna had frightening news. Carl had been killed while trying to escape the POW camp.
No.
Upon hearing of his death, Emile became sickened with grief. September 15th, 1916. The bloody Battle of the Somme still raged on. 206,000 British soldiers would lose their lives there. Freddy was commissioned to drive the newest weapon of war, a major progress in a conflict that was literally stuck in the mud. But Baron von Dorf was also counting on this battle to shine in front of his superiors.
Zum Angriff! Vorwärts!
After too many missteps and too many battles lost, Baron von Dorf was demoted and moved far from the front lines. For him, a fate worse than death. January 18th, 1917. Emile, still bedridden, beseeched Anna to travel to Saint-Mihiel to find his daughter and share the sad news of Karl's death. Anna set off immediately. Exhausted, starving, Karl realized he'd never reach Saint-Mihiel, his strength fading. Destiny still had one more surprise in store. They were only about 20 miles from Saint-Mihiel when their hopes were again dashed. Saint-Mihiel. At last. Their euphoria was short-lived, intercepted by German troops who still held Saint-Mihiel. Karl and Anna were led to the officers' quarters for interrogation. Karl was sent back to fight for the Germans, while Anna was sent to the infirmary to care for soldiers. On April 8th, the French forces launched an assault on Saint-Mihiel, an opportunity that Karl would not let slip by.
Ja! You snooped your love. Ja, komm. Hier. Das ist der Best. Flux, flux.
While Karl was about to finally make it back home, Freddy was joining the Canadian troops stationed at Vimy. In the sky, George, a British aviator from the Royal Air Force, was spotting the German positions for artillery support. On this day, Canadian troops led the charge. So many failures and sacrifices, the Canadians finally managed to take the hill back from the Germans. The United States' entry into the war grew more certain by the week. The last letter from Freddy's younger brother confirmed his country's newfound eagerness to join the fight. Karl was within a few hundred yards of Emil's farm when the rumbling of the French air patrols began thundering through the April sky.
Respire. Ne parle pas. Marie. Ne parle pas.
It was to be the battle that would bring an end to the war.
Allez! Faites enfouler une foulée, bah! Oh, bah, j'ai dit! Bah, attends, moi, t'es content! Arrière!
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
The blow was fatal. The Nivelle offensive was a bloodbath, a butchery. Soon, mutiny spread throughout the French infantry divisions, and the offensive was abandoned. Emile was jailed with the other rebels, waiting to be court-martialed. The dogs of war, man's best and most loyal friend, shared the same day-to-day as the soldiers. Whether carrying messages, saving the wounded, or sweeping for mines, they never failed to fulfill their duty.
What? Allez, Karl. Karl, allez! Tu vas t'en sortir, tiens bon. Allez! Allez, Karl!
One look from his son was enough for Karl to forget 3 years of war and exile.
Look and stay on.
After weeks without news of Emile,
C'est le ballon.
Marie finally received a letter from her father.
Émile Chaillon. C'est l'heure.
Dearest Marie, as the war ends for me, I have no regrets. I've seen too much horror. I hope fate has been more merciful to you. Our time on earth is brief, and mine has been filled with so much joy that I can only be thankful for how much I've been blessed, most especially for the wonder you brought into my life. This letter is my last. I've been found guilty by a military court for the death of an officer. It was not my intention to kill him. War makes men mad. Though I failed Carl, I know my sacrifice has not been in vain. I fought for my country and my liberty. My honor is assured. Since it is the will of God to separate us on earth, I hope we'll meet again in heaven. Keep me in your prayers. Your loving Papa. Always.
Even though their bodies have long since returned to dust, their sacrifice still lives on. We must strive to cherish their memory and never forget.